All right, guys. If we had a magical tactic that simply worked all the time, it would be fun to play with, but it wouldn't be much fun to watch. And so we're going to have a lot more of this fiddling around with the tactic and seeing if we can figure out something that actually works. First of all, though, I do want to note that this title race hots up headline is really embarrassing. This is one of the numerous misspellings that remain in Football Manager after many years. I've never heard of anybody say a title race hots up. It should be title race heats up. So, I mean, I have no idea where this is from. I don't know why we're using this. I mean, come on. Come on. There's this. The Sports Interactive brings in enough money to have somebody do at least some basic proofreading. As you can see, we're still in fourth place. We still could pull this one around. I don't know if we're going to be able to actually catch up with Lionheart, but hopefully we can manage a second place finish. And we are certainly going to finish in the top half, which is all that the board wants us to do. It would be nice if we could figure out our tactic and figure out what to do. We had a lot of problems there in the last match. The problems mostly came here from the sides, as these inside forwards didn't really do very much. I like the idea of playing these players back here on fullback roles instead of playing them as a wingback, because I think that they play better, especially off of Faatonu. I'm sorry, not Faatonu, the other one, Famuana, off of Famuana. There we go. I think that he's been playing better using this role, and he has. You can see it right here. Now, when we go over here and we look at the coach report, he does want to be a fullback, and I think that we're probably better off just sort of like doing what he wants to do, right? I haven't dug that deep yet. I don't know hugely what the difference is, other than I assume that the fullback mostly is just supporting the midfield, whereas the wingback is running up and down and back and forth, and I'm just guessing that Alpha probably is not the right player to be running down, up and down and back and forth. What I think we're going to do here is I think we're going to move this over here and that over there, which is in line with what the original design of this tactic was like by Knapp. Now, there's a couple other things I want to look at as well. One of them is Milani and whether this is actually the position that he wants to play in or not. He really wants to be a central midfielder, and I worry that by making him the attacking midfielder, it's probably not... I'm sorry, what does he want to do up here? Now, he wants to be an advanced playmaker, and I worried by making him whatever our role currently is, attacking midfielder, that we're not using him kind of the way that we could. So we'll have him move up a little bit more and just sort of see what happens, and see if he can get in the hole and spray passes around as opposing to sitting in the hole instead of getting in the box. So let's see what we can do with him. Milani is a player who's got good fitness and good work rate and a good first touch as well, though not really good at anything else. So we'll see what happens. You know, he provides some leadership on the pitch, which is what we want to see. The other question we have is whether the two guys in the wings, if we really want them to be inside forwards or if we want them just to be wingers, right? So, and I was struggling with this beforehand. This was a really, really poor performance by Tyler Louis. And you can see when he was playing as a winger, he played a little bit better, but not that great. Playing as an inverted winger, he actually has had really good performances. And so there's a question as to whether we should change that role to inverted winger. We'll go over here and look at Kalliope as well. Now, Kalliope I want to be careful with because he is the captain of the squad and he's naturally a leader, and we kind of would like to keep him around. And see, he hasn't done quite as well as an inverted winger, but sometimes he does okay, sometimes he doesn't do quite so well. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to change these rules over back to inverted winger and just sort of see what happens. And that'll be one of the first changes that we make moving forward here. The rest of this, I still think it's okay. We'll see again if Kalliope can run up. You'll notice that I didn't download the tactic. I haven't gone through and made a whole bunch of like individual changes or anything like that, right? I haven't done a whole bunch of weird things with instructions. I mean, we could say like maybe we want him to shoot more often. I don't know. Maybe that would help out a little bit. You know, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But in general, that's the sort of change that I'm looking at making, you know, overall to the tactic. Though it's fun to mess around with it and, you know, try to figure out like, hey, does this work? Does that work? To figure out what somebody else did with it. I do want to make it sort of my own. That's what I'm trying to say, and fiddle around with it a little bit and sort of poke around and say, hey, what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? And from what I've read, that's kind of the easiest way to work on tactics. And I can't remember if I said this in yesterday's video or not, but one of the problems I have with looking around at advice people have for tactics is that so many people people who play Football Manager will just use like the best team in the country and then be like, oh, look, I got this to work with PSG and we scored 1 billion goals and didn't give up any. Well, of course, it's because you're using one of the best teams in the game. It's a little bit harder when you have sort of limited resources and you're trying to figure out the best way to get like the best performance out of them. And hey, maybe the problem is like the player role. Maybe the problem is some other thing. Who knows? Anyway, we'll see what happens. The other thing I was going to say is I think that the sweeper keeper role here for Ikuvalu is better based upon what I've read about it, especially with a higher defensive line. I think that helps us get in front of potential shots. So I think the problem that we had earlier on last season and in the early parts of this season was that we had a sweeper keeper with a very low defensive line, which meant that nobody really kind of knew who was keeping shop. And I think that we gave up a whole bunch of space in the midfield that we probably shouldn't have. And we had too many attacks that were just sort of lump the ball forward and see what happens. So anyway, that's sort of my idea of what's going on, and we'll see what we need to do. There's one other question that I have, which is for Maile, which is is there a role that he would much rather play in? And you can see that he would rather play in a poacher role, and so we could take a quick look here and see, maybe that's what we want to do with him. I don't know. So, the advance forward is trying to go backwards a little bit more. Maybe we do put him, though, in a poacher role, have him stay a little bit further back and just try to feed balls into him as much as we possibly can and just sort of see what sort of difference that makes. So that's what we're going to do here for the next match and see what happens, and just hope we don't kill our tactical familiarity. I mean, the truth is that when we go back again and we look at how the title race hots up, we don't have that much of a chance to win the title. There is an outside chance that we could, but we're probably not going to. And so because of that, we have the ability to experiment, and that's really what we want to do. What we'll see at the end of this season, when all is said and done, is we're going to see a whole bunch of new players come in, some of whom are going to stay and some of whom we're actually taking on so we can steal them from other clubs, so that we can make them a little bit worse as the title race hots up. And the reason why we want to do that is because we want to try to gain whatever advantage we can here at the end. But of course, the truth is that when we have a new team set up and new players come on, a lot of these tactics are once again going to change, and we might make a couple of other adjustments and try different things out. So anyway, I'd love to know, as always, what you think. Let me know down below, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.